All right, you are good to go, Ashley. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Okay. So we're going to be discussing conflict resolution today. This is one of the most important skills that an individual can have in your just wheel book of everything that you'll need to know for your team. Go ahead and jump on over to the agenda here. I'll give you a quick overview of what we're going through today. We're going to look at the causes of workplace conflict, how to recognize the signs, the importance of resolving conflict, communication best practices for resolution, the methods of having to go about resolving this, a lot of do's and don'ts for you all, and then just these steps in the actual process of conflict resolution. We're going to start off today with a quote. This is from William James. He was a psychologist in the late 1800s. He was mostly known for functionalism, which was the causal relationships between internal mental states and external behavior, so that relationship there. But this really relates well to our topic today. As he mentions, whenever you're in conflict with someone, there is one factor that can make the difference between damaging your relationship and deepening it. And that factor is going to be attitude. So today we're going to focus on ways that employees can work with each other to resolve conflict in the workplace by recognizing the causes of workplace conflict, understanding how to facilitate resolution of conflict, and how to manage the work relationships once that has been resolved. Another thing I'm going to mention as I'm going through the slides here is that we definitely want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions on anything that comes up, feel free to kind of jump in and unmute, and then we'll also have an option at the end. So going through this, we're going to look at the causes of workplace conflict. Conflict will arise when employees just have different points of view on a topic, if they have different styles of communication and how that kind of interacts with each other. Anybody who spends a large amount of time together, kind of without breaks or kind of changing some things up, that can lead to conflict. Employees who depend on one another to just get the job done, or they have established expectations of one another that are not communicated and then not met. Just as an example, that's, well, I thought you were taking on these steps of the process of this project, or, oh, I thought that was on you. And if you don't have clear expectations, that's kind of what that point is referring to. Okay, and then the next point I'm going to make is that workplace conflict does not have to be negative. This is kind of the circumstance where employees can challenge one another's ideas, but essentially you'll need that supportive environment to where that conflict can turn into generation of new ideas or processes. It's important to remember that conflict is always going to exist between employees, but it's really a matter of recognizing, okay, this is just different points of view on something, and then making a positive outcome out of this. Continuing with some causes. So in terms of healthy conflict, as I talked about before, disagreements communicated in a supportive environment that foster the generation of new ideas or ways to problem solve, and tension that increases awareness or sheds light on a growing workplace problem. So if you're having some communication problems that are leading to certain tensions of, oh, I thought you were doing this, or I was supposed to be doing that, but nobody ever communicated, that's going to be a sign that maybe our communication strategy needs to change, as just one example of that. What we want to avoid is the damaging conflict, which is kind of in the right column here. This is anything with name calling, any personal attack. The biggest point I'm going to emphasize here is that employees can become silent, withdrawn, and or afraid to speak up. If the conflict is too intense or anything like that, what you do not want is employees shutting down and that negative conflict to grow from there. It can definitely lead to workplace cliques, gossip and rumors, and just an overall lack of respect in the workplace. So now we're going to look at recognizing these actual signs of conflict. And as a supervisor, these are things that you pretty much need to just get used to recognizing as soon as they come into play. These are going to be verbal and nonverbal signs that are going to conflict Early intervention is going to be the best informal technique for dealing with disputes of, hey, let's get this figured out early. Just some kind of obvious signs just to bring up here. This is going to be any employees who are raising the volume or increasing the rate of their speech. Any facial changes, such as furrowing of brows, widening their eyes, or flushing cheeks, just signs of really getting frustrated in a circumstance. Any kind of posture or stance changes, such as crossing your arms or kind of closing oneself off to a conversation. There are employees who try to kind of lean forward or intimidate in a conversation. Any kind of pointing or hand gestures, anything that would be associated with anger or displeasure would be another sign. Quickly, I'm going to make an important point on the importance of conflict resolution. Essentially, we're needing to learn to manage conflicts among coworkers, which allows the business to continue to run effectively. We're here to do a job. We need to resolve this conflict so that we can continue to work for the company and just work towards our goals. So there are consequences of letting conflict fester. Employees who are not even involved in an original conflict, maybe two people have an argument of how a project should be done. So a lot of times employees will either pile on because, oh, well, I think so-and-so is right in this conversation, or, hey, I think so-and-so has the better approach. Or employees can withdraw from it altogether of, hey, I don't want to be involved in this. I don't have a stake in this. That sort of thing is what you're really kind of going to end up with. Employees can also take sides or check out from work entirely. Essentially, if you have a high conflict environment, I mean, nobody really wants to come to work and have that conflict every single day. And you see that between your coworkers, it's just not good for company morale. Employees who work in teams will then become divided because of the conflict. In very extreme circumstances, however, unresolved conflict can in fact lead to violent or aggressive situations. Employees can become injured or even just have some emotional distress from all of the conflict. The company may also end up with legal risks associated with violent situations if conflicts are not addressed. I'm going to turn it on over to Scott to jump in with some other perspectives as well.
Thank you very much, Ashley. All right, communication best practices for conflict resolution. All right, how do we want to resolve conflict? All right, we're going to start off with engaging in active listening. All right. And the way you're going to do that is in active listening, you're actually providing some sort of response, body language to the individual communicating to you to let them know you are listening. So paraphrase what the employees have said to verify your understanding. All right. Get further clarification. Use I statements. All right. The use of I statements. Use I instead of you to prevent defensive reactions. So I have this understanding of this. And instead of saying, well, you said this, it becomes the statement there is just a little more aggressive when you say, well, you said this, even if you're trying to paraphrase them. I understand you said this, something like that. Respect others. Be respectful of different perspectives and ways of doing things. And to me, this is kind of the crux. Everybody has their thoughts that they've brought with them, the way that they would like to tackle something. And when an individual is told, no, we're not going to do it that way, a lot of times it creates a defensive nature. All right. Check for understanding. Ask questions to clarify, kind of like the first one in active listening. Ask questions to clarify the employee's concerns. Make sure that you have an understanding, and that way you can create a specific goal that you all are attempting to achieve. If you're not checking for clarification or understanding, then you may all be shooting for a different target. Okay. And then communicate honestly. Be truthful. Don't make promises you may not be able to keep. All right. The hardest part is one of the hardest things is to let people to let people down, to say, no, we're not going to be able to do that. No, we're not going to be able to achieve that. Or no, we're not doing that. We're not concentrating on this at this time. And people had their hearts set on something. So just being honest and say, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to be doing that. All right. Ask questions to help diffuse conflict. Paraphrase what the speaker has said so that they can confirm or clarify what they meant. All right. Um, again, you're just wanting to make sure you're understanding their perspective. Ask the speaker what they think think should happen next, or what resolution they would like. All right. All right. Did you know? While a supervisor should be honest, that doesn't mean they should divulge information that someone does not need to know. All right. And finding a good way to state that. Um, I've always liked the phrase, we're not going to speak about that at this time, or that is not something we're going to concentrate on, or at this time, I want to concentrate on this. What you're trying to do is just clarify these are our action items, these are going to receive our attention. And if an individual can't get over that, that's something, again, as it says here, you don't need to divulge everything. That's why there is a hierarchy. And some people at certain levels concentrate on different things. And so making sure that an employee understands these are our topics, these are what we're going to concentrate on. All right. Second bullet point, when circumstances call for discretion, or if it would be a legal violation to discuss a matter with certain individuals, it's acceptable to reply to inquiries with a statement like, I'm not at liberty to discuss this matter. What I can share with you is, and another way to phrase that is, I'm not able to speak about that at this time, or I'm not able to talk about this. All right. And you can say that over and over again.
Scott, I
Yes.
just like, hi, this is Kendra. I just like
Yeah.
to add something there because sometimes when employees ask questions you can't speak about, they're asking from a place of concern. So I always find it useful to also address that concern and understand how it's important to that employee, even if you can't speak about it. So acknowledging that that concern is coming from somewhere is also helpful.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's absolutely important to make sure that you understand their concerns, understand how important it is to them. But at this time, you may be concentrating on something else, and that will be tackled at another time. So thanks for jumping in there, Kendra. And please jump in with anything else. All right. Methods for resolving conflict. There are 5 basic ways of handling conflict in the workplace. All right. Competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding, and accommodating. There's no one way to resolve a conflict, and often multiple methods may be needed to reach a resolution. All right. So we may be using 1 and 3 here, or 2 and 4, or something like that. So let's talk about those. To continue, competing. All right. The competing method involves handling the conflict through unilateral decision making. This approach is most appropriately used by managers and leaders in the workplace. All right. Primarily it's used for situations that involve quick action and instances in which there is no compromise or debate. All right, situations requiring the need to make hard or unpopular decisions. All right, a lot of times these come from above, and there's no real discussion to be had. All right, collaborating. The collaborating method involves handling the conflict through team input. This technique is particularly useful if all parties in the conflict want to find a resolution but are unable to agree on what the resolution should be. All right. Primarily used for gaining support from the team, using the different perspectives as an opportunity to learn. I like that one the best. And improving relationships through collaboration. Kind of a team effort, as it says there in the top paragraph. All right. You are wanting to allow everybody's input. And I'm just going to caveat that by saying, making sure that you still control the conversation, but you do want to make sure that you are in this method, you are allowing everybody to have a voice and that the resolution comes from that collaboration. All right. You want to make sure that everybody's efforts are fulfilled and they are receiving in the end. Hopefully everybody feels like they've been represented and they've been heard and listened to. All right. Compromising. The compromising method involves handling a conflict by reaching a resolution that involves a win on both sides of the table. All right. Um, so it's kind of like the collaborative, where everybody's voice is heard. Primarily, this is used for resolving issues of moderate to high importance, finding a solution that involves equal power and strong commitment on both sides. All right. Again, finding a solution that involves equal power. All right. Situations needing a temporary fix. And then backing up a decision that was made using the competing method or collaborative method. Right. Again, what you want to do is make sure that you are representing everybody. Everybody is being heard and has a voice, and that equal power that was mentioned there. So that way, nobody feels like they, and I'm going to say, have lost faith of face. All right. Everybody feels like, okay, I was heard, I was listened to, and I had an input. Avoiding. The avoiding method is a way of handling conflict by making an active decision not to handle the conflict. This approach is best used for situations that are not related to work and that should be solved through another means. So, unimportant or non-work related issues, buying time until a resolution can be reached, and recognizing issues as symptoms. Now, in your mind, you may have an example of when this is appropriate. Again, unimportant or non-work related issues in HR, a lot of times we advise clients to sit the employee down and say, take this outside. As in, this should not occur on company property. This has nothing to do with your productivity, with your job description. The attention you are giving this is inappropriate. And that's, to me, that's the best example of, I was trying to think of situations where this occurs and what example. If anybody has one, I'd love for them to jump in, but avoidance is, although it doesn't sound valid, it is absolutely something that is appropriate, as in, don't give the situation energy. All right. All right. And accommodating. The accommodating method is a way of handling conflict by allowing the other side to win. And this is primarily used for maintaining perspective in a conflict situation, making active decisions on what can be let go versus what needs another method. All right. And keeping the peace and creating goodwill. This is absolutely something that can provide a win for the employees or the other side, and thus maintaining respect, maintaining a sense of camaraderie or teamwork. Um, Again, I would weigh out. It sounds a little, Machiavellian to say, okay, I'm going to let them win, so I can, bring this up at a later time and use it. something in your pocket to use for later. And maybe that is something that you can do. Maybe if you have the perspective of, okay, I'm going to allow this to happen because I know later on down the pipe I'm going to need this. So play a little politics. All right, moving on. The do's and don'ts of conflict resolution. All right. These are the behaviors that we do or do not want to see. So, in conflict resolution, be approachable. All right. Open door policy. Listen to others. At least allow them to have their voice, allow them to be heard. Speak at a steady volume and pace. Match your tone and inflection to the meaning, not to the other individual, but to the meaning. How important is what you're speaking of at the time? How much, and that will dictate how much intensity possibly you should have or inflection. And then do seek to achieve a fair and acceptable result. This may not always be able to be done, but overall, if this is something you can achieve, then it's a big win, and you will maintain respect because people will know you're doing your best. All right, don't in conflict resolution, don't talk down to anyone. That is infuriating and just seeds the field for anger. Don't rely on assumptions. All right, make sure that you are voicing your expectations, your views, and so the other individual has the ability to clarify. Don't yell or raise your voice at anyone. Don't mock or insult others, and don't embarrass others. Um, this is something I see quite a bit. Taking the time in a meeting to try and create a win, to show power. That should be something that should be, if it is a serious conversation piece, uh, then I would absolutely say that needs to be done alone outside of the public arena. All right. Methods for resolving conflict. All right. There are 6 steps to conflict resolution process. Clarify what the disagreement is. Do you have the same understanding as the other individual or individuals? Establish a common goal for both parties. Discuss ways to meet the common goal. Determine the barriers to the common goal. Agree on the best way to resolve the conflict and acknowledge the agreed solution and determine the responsibilities each party has in the resolution. All right. So, I want to make sure, sorry, I do want to make sure that I clarify each one of these. Number one, clarify what the disagreement is. Again, making sure that there is a clear understanding, and that your perspective is understood and that the other person's is understood. Number two here, establish a common goal for both parties. So again, like we said in the beginning here, do you have the same target as the other individual? Making sure, because when you get to the end and the other party is not happy or you're not happy because it was not clarified what the target was, then you're standing apart with resolution, but there is not solid ground. And that means you've got to start all over again, or band-aids need to be used, and that just is not a good place to be. All right. Number three, discuss ways to meet the common goal. So, what are the tactics? What is the ladder you're going to climb together? All right. What are the certain steps that need to be put in place in order to achieve the target or goal? Number four, determine the barriers to the common goal. All right, this is where you may be clarifying jobs. All right, certain items that people are in their jobs they're accomplishing. Are they a detriment, or are they going to be a support for the common goal? All right. And so everyday barriers that may occur, and that may be needing to change individuals' jobs. All right. Moving people around, moving resources around. All right. You have to make sure, look into the future and make sure that those barriers are down by the time you get to that certain that certain point within, uh, within the, within your travels to get to the common goal. Okay. Number 5, agree on the best way to resolve the conflict. All right. Whatever conflict is in place. Again, it's kind of like clarifying what the disagreement is. What are the best ways to tackle what is occurring? And what are the again, what are the barriers that you see that in order to resolve the conflict? Okay. Again, this point, the agree on the best way to resolve the conflict. This is just good, solid communication. All right. What do they see and what do you see? Are you agreeing on what the conflict is? And are you agreeing on the way to resolve it? And then number 6, acknowledge the agreed solution and determine the responsibilities each party has in the resolution. All right. What are the expectations? Um, this is a huge, again, I said this before, what each individual carries with them or brings with them to the table, those expectations. All right. You have yours, they have theirs. All right. How are you going to meet in the middle, making sure that your perspectives are the same, or at least if they're not the same, they're at least understood. Okay. All right. Key takeaways. Conflict is inevitable in the workplace. There's healthy and damaging conflict. All right. Some causes of workplace conflict are employees with different points of view. This is obvious. Employees who communicate differently. All right. Also obvious. And employees spending large amounts of time together. All right. Sometimes um, nipping employees' time together in the bud. That's one of the items I recommended for one of my clients was they had 2 employees that ate lunch together, and they always knew later in the afternoon there would be some sort if management made a decision, these 2 individuals would have lunch, and then later on in the afternoon, there would be a conversation that was had among the employees. And so what they attempted to do was change the lunch period. And this was a paper printing factory. So they were able to move these into employees' schedule. And it did reduce the conflict because they realized these 2 individuals kind of like to stir the pot. All right. So making sure that you have an understanding, it may not always be 2 employees talking. All right. It may just be as simple as a job that's gone different or wrong and creates a conflict among management. All right. Having the perspective and the understanding of where the conflict comes from. And then finally, here, it is important to address conflict because unresolved conflict leads to low morale, productivity, and in extreme cases, workplace violence. You don't want it to fester. Knowing when to have a company meeting and when not to have a company meeting is a very hard decision to make. Sometimes you want to bring all the employees together to discuss stuff, and like I said, I'm sure everybody understands sometimes it's not the best thing, and you just want to have I'm going to say a decree across the company of what will happen. All right. Not exactly collaborative, but then again, a lot of times just sending the word down is sometimes the best thing. All right. I know we went that this presentation went rather quickly, but what immediate questions do you folks have? Or even if you have examples that you've seen in the workplace. I've been to a lot of company meetings where there's been conflict. Of course, the employees show up in a room for a meeting, and of course, a lot of the employees are very stirred up. They're very anxious. They want to speak. They want to voice their opinion. And the first thing that management has to understand is this may take a while. All right. That this meeting is not going to be a half an hour, and having the understanding if you're going to allow everybody to speak, you're going to need to make sure that you you have the room for a long time. All right. And number two, there are some items you're going to want to tackle and some items you're not going to tackle. So making sure that before you have the meeting, um, have your own understanding of what you are going to tackle and not going to tackle. And then I'm going to say also making sure you have the appropriate individuals in the room for these conflict conversations. If you allow people to speak and all you say in the end is, well, we'll see about this, or, I can't make those decisions. Well, either make it clear in the very beginning that you're not going to be able to make a definitive decision at this time, or make sure the appropriate individuals are in the room. But you need to make it clear and make it the understanding clear. All right. All right. Any questions at all? Ashley, anything you'd like to add?
I'll just add that, if you digest this information and a situation comes up and you have questions on how to handle it, Concurrent HRO is always here to help. You can give us a call on our main line, reach out to our HR email, or Kendra. I know you're always on top of everything, but we're definitely here and happy to help with whatever questions you might have or any kind of follow-up from there.
And if before a meeting, you want to utilize us, and we get this all the time where we have a manager and a supervisor call in and say, "Hey, we're about to have a meeting on this. Can we talk through this?" That is absolutely something we are here for, um, because we can talk through our experiences and then provide any insight we might have, provide you support. And again, just garner some insight and some understanding of what you may be running into, and provide the best support we can. We'd love to do it. That's what we're here to do. Kendra, anything you'd like to add?
And no, I think that was great. Uh, just acknowledging that conflicts are normal and they're not something to shy away from. I know that, conversations are hard to have sometimes, but getting through them, it's always better on the other side.
And
Exactly. We
yeah,
would
and
agree.
and I'm going to add that sorry that like you said, conflict is normal. It's okay, but also remembering, hey, let's stand up and get a drink of water real quick. If you feel like it's getting heated, always be okay to take a 1 or 2 minute break. Um,
Yes. Uh, so,
Go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like when I knew a manager and myself were about to have a hard conversation, either between each other or with another employee, we have a word that we use, just kind of lighten the load. We'd say like pineapple, and that was a cue to be like, okay, this is a little too much for me right now. I need to step
Perfect.
away. And so if you're about to go into those conversations and you want to establish having that word beforehand, that's always a good method too.
It's great. Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Attention breaker, something like that, just to
Mhm.
bring it down and refocus. Yeah, yeah. always keep that in mind and have that insight that, okay, it's okay. We can take a break here, or we can utilize that word or whatever's necessary. You want to keep it civil, even though it is conflict. All right. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time unless somebody has a question or an example. Otherwise, I think we're good to go.
Thank you, Ashley and Scott. Really appreciate your time.
Of course,
Thank
thank
you
you
all very
for
much.
joining us this morning as well.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and let us know what else you may need, please.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks.